So thank you everyone so much for being here. I know you had an early start this morning and it's been a packed schedule. So thank you all for taking time to join us this afternoon. We're so excited to have you here. My name is Lisa Luh. I lead product marketing for asset performance and supply chain solutions at C3 AI. Today also with me is Anjali Krishnamachar, who is a senior product manager on the asset performance team. And actually, before we jump into the agenda, we would love to get to know you a little bit. If you're familiar with the Asset Performance Suite, could you please raise your hand? Oh, not that many. Okay, can you please keep your hand up if you're a customer? Okay, great. There's actually a lot more. Wonderful. Well, I saw that there were many hands that were not raised, and so our objective today is to hopefully tell you more about some of our most powerful, tractable, and valuable applications at C3 AI. And our second objective is to hopefully give you a chance to try the product yourself. So as I briefly mentioned, I will quickly introduce the core applications part of the Asset Performance Suite. And I will also highlight a few releases that came out in 2024, all around the theme of scalability. And I'll also give you a sneak peek into our 2025 roadmap, along with two other themes that we've heard from our customers from you. And for the second half, I'm going to turn it over to Anjali, who will walk you through a hands-on lab of reliability, which is our flagship predictive maintenance application. And then we'll make sure to save a few minutes at the end for any questions you might have. But please also find us at the AI Marketplace if you have any follow-up questions. All right, so let's dive in. So many of you probably heard asset performance and reliability a lot on the main stage today. We do have two other core applications within the suite. So first, reliability is our predictive maintenance application. We also have process optimization, which is meant to help you improve yield, quality, and cost for your processes. And that is through AI-recommended set point recommendations. The third is energy management, and that's meant to help you improve energy costs and energy efficiency by identifying those opportunities where you can further improve your efficiency and resource utilization. And before I move on, I do want to mention that you've heard a lot about our Agentic AI, and you heard Adrienne describe that as an Agentic AI layer as part of our stack. So I will just highlight that our applications sit on top of that and are taking advantage of the agentic capabilities that are being developed at the platform layer. So you'll see that come out in our roadmap in just a second. Now, before we move on to the 2024 releases, I do want to highlight what we believe is a key differentiator in the market. So you also heard a lot from our main stage presenters today from Flint Hills Resources and from Nucor, that data unification is something we do really well. Your data for spare parts might be living in one place, whereas your sensor and IoT data might be living in a different place. What we do at C3 is we help you bring all those data into a model-driven architecture. So now you're taking advantage of a platform approach for machine learning. So not only are you bringing data together, there are other vendors who can do that, but you're bringing together into a platform that is directly built for machine learning and advanced optimization. And that is the key difference for C3. And you only see three applications here, or three use cases. But as you saw earlier on the main stage, this is just a subset of use cases that you can start with at C3. So keep in mind that we also have supply chain as well as other solutions that might be relevant for you. All right. So I know there was a smaller group in here than maybe I had anticipated, but we have the great privilege of working with some of the most admirable companies in the world, and I do see more of you now in the crowd. I see some Shell team. All right. Hi, Graham. And from Flint Hills Resources that you saw earlier, our Wholesome team will be getting on stage, on the main stage tomorrow, as well as a breakout tomorrow. The U.S. Air Force uses us as a system of record for predictive maintenance, as well as Dow our Duke Energy team, as well as others. Now, with that said, we don't take that for granted, and we consider our customers the main source of feedback for our product roadmaps. So one thing that we heard loud and clear from you is that you wanted to scale AI better and more efficiently. So here I'm going to highlight 3 key features that was released for reliability in 2024 that is all around scalability. So the first is going to be asset onboarding. The first step for us to enable predictive monitoring is setting up a digital representation of your assets, or what we call an asset hierarchy. So what you're seeing in the demo here is that you can now create and edit asset hierarchies directly in the UI. So you can see in the demo that the user has filtered for a plant. There's an asset hierarchy associated with that plant, and she's now directly editing the asset hierarchy using some templates to add an additional asset to that hierarchy. And we know many of you around scalability, you're looking to bring on new users to the AI platform, and we see this as extremely valuable for them because they can directly visualize what it is exactly that they're building within the interface. Secondly, we heard from many of you that you wanted better visibility into your spare parts inventory. Part of the value proposition of reliability is helping you do the right maintenance at the right time. And you need to do that. And in order to do that, you need to have the right parts on hand. So what this spare parts module is helping you not only have visibility into your spare parts inventory, but also help you forecast when there might be a shortage of parts in relation to the work orders and the cases that have been created for maintenance. So in this demo that you're seeing that there is potential gap between what your inventory is and what the forecast is saying that your inventory should be, and then so your team can then take action to order more parts if necessary. And lastly, this is not necessarily a new capability as for reliability. However, we are now exposing our multiple models per asset capability through the interface. For many of our customers, we know you like to run multiple types of analytics on top of a specific asset. So you could have multiple models associated with an asset, in addition to the AI risk model that C3 AI provides. Now, what we're seeing now in this demo, and I'll go back a little bit so you can see in the beginning, what we're now exposing through an AI user interface is that you can see all of the models that are associated with an equipment. And what this does, it helps your team better manage all the different insights that are being generated by all your different models. And they can additionally monitor the performance of these models all in one place. And what this really does is help you manage models at scale using all of the model ops capabilities that we provide as part of C3 AI platform. Okay, I realize this did not play, so let me show you that really quick. So you click an asset, and then you can scroll down to see all the different models that are associated with the asset. All right, so then in 2025, where are we going? Last year, we focused a lot on scalability, and this year, we heard loud and clear from you that explainability and actionability are the 2 themes that we need to focus on in product development. So I'm going to expand the roadmap to focus on our entire portfolio, so not just reliability, and here are 3 highlights that we wanted to share. First, we understand that your users, the asset engineers, they love to do deep dive analysis. And part of that is helping them trust the AI insight. And how can we help them create that trust? And part of it is creating interactive charts where they can really deep dive into the sensors, the measurements, and the models, to use their logical reasoning to really trust the insight that is coming from the model. And so this year, it's going to be a big theme where we're building these enhanced advanced charts within reliability. Now, moving on to process optimization, we know many of you have been asking for enhanced what-if scenario analysis. So we are building a new capability where users can compare different scenarios within a playground environment to help drive that decision-making process of how to better optimize their processes. And lastly, for energy management, we want to help you better bring process optimization and energy efficiency together. And this is by looking at your equipment schedules, the process set points, and making sure that you're optimizing your resources based on these two factors. So there's a lot more on our roadmap, but we're really excited about these. We truly think that they will help the users build more trust in the AI insights, the optimization insights, and create more actionability for you. But we're happy to share more of what's on our roadmap with you offline as well. But before I move on, I cannot forget about Agentic AI. I know there's a lot that's been said about Agentic AI today already. There's one thing that we really want to hone in on. What you're seeing in this demo is Agentic AI built into an existing process. So what Agentic AI is doing here is it's mimicking how a human might analyze an AI alert. And so it's like what Jim says. We are building the AI to be like a human. And as a product team, we think that is a really good starting place to build trust with Agentic AI. And so that's what you're seeing here as well. And I'll quickly go through this in the interest of time. The next two demos are quite similar, where the agent is raising an alert. In this case, there's an opportunity to better optimize your process, so it's making some recommendations. But again, it's following the same framework of an agent mimicking a human and what they would need to see before they take action based on an AI insight. All right. And I'll show you this as I wrap up, too. So ultimately, I think our focus as a company is to create value for you. We see a lot of potential in boosting productivity with Agentic AI, but we don't think that we can do it without our customers. We need you to help fine-tune our use cases and help us see where you truly see the best value for your business. So we definitely welcome your feedback. Whether you are an existing customer or not, please stop by the AI Marketplace. We would love to show you these prototypes in more detail, and please give us that feedback. And with that, I would love to welcome Anjali on stage, and she will give you some instructions to start the next half of our session, the hands-on lab. All right, Anjali.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, now the part that hopefully everyone is very excited to jump into, the hands-on lab. So we'll be doing a walkthrough of the reliability application. We will explore some of the key workflows that take you all the way from setting up assets and monitoring models in the application, and then to triaging alerts and looking at early indication of equipment risk. So quick reminder, I know Lisa has talked about reliability, but also talked about some of our other applications. So C3 AI Reliability is an application that helps you maximize uptime and productivity with AI predictive maintenance. So it helps you prioritize alerts, eliminate false alarms, provide faster triage with built-in root cause analysis and failure modes, and it even integrates with C3 Generative AI so that you can enable document search and query across operational knowledge. So a little bit of housekeeping for today's lab. Each of you have access to an instance of C3 AI Reliability, and we have assigned you a unique asset that you'll be responsible for setting up, managing the models, and investigating the alerts for. So everyone should have a paper in front of them at their station. Please check the top of your paper to see your assigned asset and the facility that that asset belongs under. I will be demonstrating the steps on the big screen. but I know that people might still potentially run into issues. So if you have any problems, please raise your hand, and one of my helpers from the product team will scurry around and try to help unblock you. One other note that I wanted to make was that I know that sometimes we use some jargon that might not be familiar to everybody, so I will probably say the word asset maybe 30 times during this presentation. What is an asset? In the reliability world, this just refers to any piece of equipment that you might be interested in monitoring. So a boiler, a gearbox, a compressor, and so on. Now, what I would love is if everyone can click onto the computer in front of them, and if you have been logged out, make sure that you can log in. The password is transform with a capital T. And hopefully once everyone's able to do that, we'll get started. While people are logging in, I'll set the scene a little bit. So let's all imagine that we are reliability engineers, and we're working in a steel manufacturing plant. Your company has a lot of high value and complicated assets that your team is responsible for monitoring. And you've seen that there's been some success from using C3 AI reliability on a subset of these assets. Your task is now to help expand the deployment. And you are responsible for onboarding a new asset, which will then be monitored by C3 AI reliability. We'll take a quick look. I haven't had you open up the app yet, so don't worry, you're not doing anything wrong. But I'll take a quick look at what the different workflows that we'll be going through in the app is, and then everyone will pull up the app and immediately get distracted. So before we do that, we will be going through these workflows. We'll first visit the asset hierarchy module and review how to add that new asset. A quick bit of background here for not everyone who's maybe familiar with reliability. Everybody knows here that machine learning models are powered by data. In the reliability world, that data is coming off of sensors that are on your equipment. And so our models are powered specifically by that sensor data. Before we can build models for that, though, we need that digital representation of your asset, the data, and where it falls in the facility, as Lisa was mentioning earlier. So we've recently invested in a UI-based workflow for the asset hierarchy onboarding process. You'll see how the application supports this. After the data is set up for your asset, the next step is to create those machine learning models. In this portion of the lab, we'll look at the model ops workflow and get a glimpse at some of the model management tools. Don't get too worried. We're not going to make you make your own machine learning model. That would be a bit much for the lab. But you will be performing some of the model validation process and get a look at what you can do with those model management tools. And then finally, once the models are monitoring your asset, you can then take advantage of the outputs of the models, which in this case are the reliability alerts. So we will pivot back to that daily workflow for a reliability engineer and triage an alert, try to understand the risk, and take the action to proactively address maintenance. Okay, now we can get started. So everyone click on Chrome, and in the browser, you should be able to see some bookmarks at the top. Please click on the C3 AI reliability bookmark, and that should open up the application. All right, and I am on my side. I'm going to switch. So the first step that we're going to do is look at how we can create new assets and connect them to that asset hierarchy to scale out the deployment. So you might want to monitor tens or hundreds of assets. And this module gives you a global view of your deployment, so you can view all of your assets and edit them or adjust them as needed. One thing that I want to call out is that historically, the process of setting up a new asset has been somewhat tedious and dependent on some manual entry of information in spreadsheets. Some of our customers in the room might be familiar with this. So we've invested a lot of time into a UI-based module to make this a lot more easy for rapid scale-out and reducing frustration. Everybody click on the left-hand side. There's an asset config module. And then that will take us to the asset hierarchy viewer where you're able to see all of the different assets that exist in your deployment. You can minimize the left-hand side bar so that you have a little bit more space on the screen. This is our home base for viewing, getting that bird's eye view of all the assets in the deployment. So I actually have gone ahead and created your assets for you, but the first step that we're going to take is to see if you can identify them. So each of you should have a facility on the sheet in front of you. Please select that facility from the dropdown. In my case, I'm looking at facility A. Then press filter. You should now be able to see all of the assets for facility A rendered on the chart. In my case, I'm looking at the compressor A, but for each of you, you should have your own asset assigned. So please see if you can find the node that belongs to you within the hierarchy. From this bird's eye view, we're going to explore some of the tools that exist for rapidly scaling out your asset hierarchy process. So once you've found the node that belongs to you, go ahead and click on it. This will open a side panel that includes some of the different actions that you can take to scale out your hierarchy. We have, as Lisa mentioned, a number of pre-built templates that include either individual types of assets that you can add to your hierarchy or pre-configured groups of assets that might be in typical configurations you might see in the field. If you've been able to open this right-hand side panel, please press the Add from Hierarchy Template button. This will open a modal that gives you some options to add assets from a pre-configured hierarchy. So in my case, I'm looking at the compressor. I'm going to search through these templates and look for something that's related to a compressor and add, perhaps, a reciprocating compressor template. I can see that this is my original node, the compressor, and I'm quickly been able to add a mini tree of assets underneath my original compressor. So each of you, please choose an asset hierarchy template of your choice and see how you can preview what it looks like underneath your selected node. Then press Save and Close. You should now be able to see the assets that you just created underneath your original node. And I know this is just like a template example, but hopefully it's not too difficult for you to imagine how you might use this kind of approach to rapidly scale out to implementing tens or hundreds of assets in your deployment. Okay, here's some whispers, so hopefully people are following along. But again, raise your hand if you're running into issues. Okay, awesome. Once you've set this up, this is just a taste of what you can do in this module. We're actually going to discard our changes so that we don't mess up the hierarchy, because we'll be using the other assets for the rest of this workflow. So please press the Discard Changes button, and then discard changes in the modal. You should see the facility hierarchy reset to what it was originally. Now that we have added our assets to the hierarchy, our next step is to create machine learning models to monitor our assets' health. So we'll be moving over to the Model Ops module, and we'll look at some of our self-service tools for training, evaluating, and deploying models. We've spent a lot of time building out these tools from the user interface so that they're accessible to SMEs and non-data scientist users. So I just want to call out, in order to use these tools, you don't need to open a Jupyter notebook, you don't need to know Python. You can do all of this from the UI in order to train, evaluate, and deploy those models. So our goal is really to enable folks to be as self-sufficient as possible in the model management process. Today, as I mentioned, we did create models for you, but we'll be looking at the model validation process, which is a key step in evaluating a machine learning model and seeing if it's ready for prime time in production. So we'll explore some of those tools that SMEs have for analyzing the model's performance and providing feedback. Everybody click over to the Model Management tab on the left-hand side. Expand the side panel and click on Model Ops. You can then close the side panel once done. So this is our Model Ops home base. This is where you can see all of the different models that exist in your deployment across all of the different assets. We have, as I mentioned, already made you a model. So first step, let's go find that model. Please use the left-hand side. There's a filter panel and a particular section called ML Subject. Click into the drop-down for ML Subject and type in the name of your asset. you should see it show up, and you should be able to select it from the drop-down. Once it's selected, press Filter, and the grid of models should filter to show you the ones that are pertinent to your asset. In my case, I happen to have 2. Click on the model name in order to navigate to the model detail page for this asset. So the model detail page, you need to tell me some. Oh, okay. All right, quickly, yes?
So how do you know you choose which of these 2 modes?
In this case, I chose the one that had live alerts on it, because I'm interested in investigating that one. But there are many different, we could go into it after. You could make choices based on many different things. On the model detail page, please click on the model validation tab. This is a page that holds all the information about training your model. So you can see some information about the training period, the validation period that was used, how many alerts were raised during model validation. And you can also feel free to click into these ones on the right to learn about the classification, the output distribution, and some model parameters. The key activity for somebody who's evaluating a model is really to look at the data for the model outputs. So please press the load chart button, and we're going to load up the outputs of the model across the training and validation periods. This will take a couple seconds. There's a good reason for it. Users typically train models across several years of data, often at the minute level, so it's a lot of data to render on one chart here. So once your chart loads up, you should be able to see the risk score across the training and validation periods. The risk score is basically the key model output for reliability risk models. It gives you a sense of your asset's health and how much risk it's basically at. So the first activity that somebody might do on this page is to come over and look at the alerts that were raised in the historical time period and see how the risk score varied during those periods. Additionally, a user might be interested in digging a little deeper into the inputs to the model, which for reliability assets are the sensor data. So on the left-hand side, we have a list of all of the features in the model. I can click on them, and I can then see the feature data plotted, which is the sensor data, in addition to the reconstructed value of the feature. So a quick tidbit on how reliability models work. For every single sensor that's fed into the model, we are creating a reconstructed value that basically depicts what the model thinks is normal operating behavior. So if you're doing model evaluation, you'll probably look at what the model thought was normal compared to what the sensor actually was at. And the discrepancy between the two would be a reason for the model to raise an alert, i.e., the model thinks that your asset should be performing in a certain way, but it's not actually. So hopefully that doesn't go over too many people's heads, but that's a high-level view of some of the activities folks would take while looking at a model's performance. To close out this section, we're going to indicate that we've spent some time reviewing the model. So please click on the Change Validation Status button and move this to either complete or needs revision based on your opinion of how well the model's doing. Please press Save. This will indicate to your other colleagues that this model has been reviewed. It's now either ready to go live in production, or maybe it needs a little bit more fine-tuning. Awesome. All right. So we're almost there. Once that we have models monitoring our equipment, we can actually use the model outputs to achieve our goal. Let's go back to what our goal was, to overall monitor a new asset in the deployment. So let's put back on the reliability engineer hat. Most reliability engineers who are using our products are spending their time looking at the reliability risk alerts that have been raised in the application. So now we'll go quickly through the workflow of a reliability engineer and how they might triage these alerts that are produced from the model. They'll diagnose if they're real risks, and then they'll create a case to make a plan for maintenance. So let's click back onto, we will click onto the alerts page on the left-hand side. Similar to the model ops page, this kind of gives you that global view of all of the alerts that have been raised in your application. Now, each of you is responsible for just one asset, so let's find the alerts that are relevant to your asset. Let's use the search bar on the top and type in the name of your asset. In my case, I have a lot of different alerts that have been raised for my compressor. I'm going to look at the first one. So click on the name of your alert. That should navigate you to the alert detail page. The alert detail page, for any of you folks who have come by the reliability booth and heard a demo, this is the core evidence package in the reliability application. This is where our reliability engineers spend their time looking at the evidence of why an alert was raised. So I'll take you through some of the pieces of that. At the top, we have the various contributing features that are part of the model and the ones that were contributing the most to raising the alert. So looking at this, I can tell these top two features were acting in the most anomalous fashion, and that might be an indication that I need to go and take a look at those sensors. In the middle of the page, we have some information about potential failure modes. So we know that this asset might be behaving in a potentially risky way. Perhaps it's something to do with process contamination. And I can click View Details to see some potential recommended actions. And finally, at the bottom of the page, we have a lot of opportunities for the reliability engineer to do some analysis. Now, Lisa was mentioning this earlier. We know a lot of our end users love to dig into the data and actually just plot the sensor data themselves, perhaps look at the feature reconstructions again, and chart how the risk score is varying over time. So this page provides that engineer with the opportunity to dig in the details and make the judgment call of if they think this is a true positive alert or not. If they do think it's a true positive alert, they then might want to triage this and add it to a case so then another team member can take action on it. So at the top left of the screen, you can press the Add to Case button. This will open a modal where you then have opportunity to input details, start creating a case, and take the next steps towards potentially doing maintenance. I'm going to pause here. We've gone through a lot of content. So once you've created a case, you've really started getting the ball rolling to take maintenance action on the asset. Again, I won't go into a lot of the details there now, but there's other workflows in the application to help you create work orders, even visualize the current inventory of spare parts to better assist with executing that maintenance. So this wraps up the lab demo portion of the breakout. Thank you for following along, for those of you who did, for some of the key lifecycle steps of the reliability application. We went from setting up our asset in the asset onboarding module, we went to evaluating machine learning model for that asset, and then finally looking at some of the alerts or the outputs of the machine learning model to diagnose risk and start planning for maintenance. So with those steps completed, you've successfully expanded your facility's deployment for this asset, and you have also survived the lab portion of this demo, so congratulations. Thank you.